What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Second Avenue Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathon and Elijah.
I'm your other host, Elijah Venencia. Let's kick it off here. How's your fantasy team doing? I've only been checking on mine today. I know it is a tight playoff race right now. So
Yeah, I think in the league we're in together, there's no shot I make the playoffs, but whatever. In one of my other leagues, I think it comes down to this matchup. I'm playing somebody else, and we're going for the last spot. And so in that league, currently, I'm down by like 50 points. It was very close last time I looked, and so it's tough to see that I'm down by so much now. He must have had some people pop off. I don't know. I guess he's had a whole shield do pretty good, and then I had Geno Smith who has 4 points, so that's tough. Other than that, whatever. Like I said, I've been saying the past couple weeks, I think it's a wrap, and that's fine. Whatever. How's your week looking?
so my main league, the higher money league, back against the wall, 4-5, a game under 500. What do I do? Roll off 5 victories in a row. Well, hopefully a 5th victory here. It's
Fingers
looking
crossed.
pretty likely. I clinched the playoffs already. That's all that matters. So I went from out of the playoff picture to playing for the 1 seed with this game here. So
Look at you, built different.
and then the other league, as long as I'm projections, it's 140 to 107. If I win, I'm in. So
Okay, go crazy. I guess we'll see next week how everything goes. But I mean, fantasy football, whatever. We got to get on the most important thing we got to talk about today. The day this drops, it's your birthday. So happy 21st birthday to you. Everybody that's listening, go tell the boy happy birthday. How are you celebrating your birthday? You only turn 21 once.
yeah, so I mean, it's a Monday, so it's like it's nothing too crazy. Like last year, I partied from Saturday into Sunday, so it's like that was kind of. But this year, it's a Monday, so I'm gonna go with a red lion wine night. You've been able to go there since I'm 19, so it's not like anything with the first experience, but wine night's always a great time. So
That's interesting. I've never been. I didn't even know they had a thing called the wine night there. But go
yeah,
crazy.
$8 bottles of wine. And
That
it
sounds
just
like
I just hammer
interesting.
them.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because everybody's walking around with
have wine
fucking
too
bottles of
much.
wine.
That's kind of fire. I haven't had wine too many times ever, so I don't know. I don't know if that's my thing, but go crazy. Hope we have a great birthday. My birthday
Yeah.
present to you on the way. We'll get on the next week, but I'll give it to you in person this week. And then I mean, if you listened last week, we were supposed to celebrate his birthday with, some after hours drinking type episode this week. We decided to push it back. Obviously he's turning 21 when it drops. So we would have had to record it when he was underage, and he doesn't drink underage, of course. So
Yeah.
we wouldn't want to make him do that just for the content. So I had to push it back a week. And it's definitely not because I forgot to go to Benny's in Bloomington before I left and look at options. It's definitely not because of that.
Yeah,
Definitely
it's
not.
definitely not because of that. We didn't want this, me underage drinking on video. When they're building this Rico case 10 years down the line. This would be a prime example.
We can't fuck up that SeatGeek sponsorship. That's all I know.
Yes, sir.
And we got to have that A1 branding and that image, and we're good boys around here. So yeah, none of that. Anyway, so to make it up for you guys, we had to come back with a banger this week. I promised a banger last week, and I know we're delivered this week. 2022 is wrapping up, and so I think it's finally time to get to the list. So to start it off, we didn't know what the best order was going to be, if we should do songs or albums first. I kind of think albums has a little bit more weight to it, so we decided to save albums for later in the month as one of our final episodes of the year, probably our final episode of the year. So we're going to start off with our top 25 songs of 2022. So we each put the list together in a loose order. It could definitely change. It's definitely not like super concrete, but 25 songs that we love from this year. It's been a great year. Excited to see what we have in common. I feel like we'll have a lot of the same artists, but we might have different songs.
Yeah. I tried to go with like a good mix of like what's in my rotation. Like this will be the same thing with my albums, like what I listen to along with, factoring in quality as well with it. So
Mm-hmm.
try
For
to find
sure.
like a good mixture between the two there. So
For sure. Before we get into it, I'll give one honorable mention. I had one that I was like, I want to have it here, but I couldn't decide what I would take out for it. So we're gonna go with an honorable mention for Stick off of the Dreamville project. I love Stick. Just super hype track. Listen to it so much, in the car, working out, on a run, playing basketball, anything. Just a great track. I had to give it a little bit of love here, but couldn't make the top 25. Just this close though. Um, yeah, I think we should get into it. Let's see what your number 25 is here.
So for my number 25, this is somewhat of an honorable mention. This is like a cop out for 25 here. I don't listen to Lil Durk too much, but I went with Aha. I feel like I had to show him some love just with the great project he had this year. So that is the one I went with.
Okay. With my number 25, I went with Johnny P's Caddy by Benny the Butcher and J. Cole. Elite feature from J. Cole. Benny does his thing. Crazy beat. I don't know what's not to like about that track. Could have been higher, possibly, but had to have it on here somewhere. And so 25
I'm
had to
su-
start off right.
I'm surprised to see it that low. It's on yours at least.
It's a good track. It was one of my top 100 songs in my Wrapped this year. So, I was definitely bumping it, but I feel like I listened to it a lot when it came out and then kind of fell off on it a little bit. But now I'm back on it after hearing it on my rap playlist. But yeah, 25.
Definitely. Moving on though, for my 24 here, I have Final Fantasy by Lil Uzi off Red and
Mm,
White. This dropped in Miami and he performed it live, and it's just been banger ever since. And then obviously like that was like my takeaway from New York. Like that was the one that was like stuck in my head afterwards. So just a solid Uzi track,
it's a classic Uzi track. Like you get exactly what you want from Uzi. He does his thing. Good track. With my number 24 song, I have Robocop by Big Baby Gucci. Love this track. The beat, super interesting, super like robotic, futuristic type. Big Baby Gucci's flow is super good. Yeah, just all in all, good track I listened to throughout the year. Had to have it on here somewhere.
Definitely great track there. For my number 23, my little LeBron number here, I have Killer Mode by West Side Boogie. Uh, Phenomenal project this year. I feel like it was between this and Can't Even Lie, and this is ultimately the one I landed on.
Okay. I will spoil it a little bit and say I don't have a song by Westside Boogie on the list. And Can't Even Lie is the one I would have had. And I've been listening to it a lot recently, and it was so close, but it didn't make it. But Kill 'Em Mode, great track as well. There's a lot of good songs on that project. So I could have had one as well, I think, but I didn't go with it. The next track, my number 23 is Oxford Circus by Frex. This is like an indie song. I love it. It's a song I didn't hear until, probably September, October, but it made its way to like my top 30, probably on my Spotify rap playlist. Listen to it all the time after the minute I heard it. I think I saw it on TikTok for the first time or something, but great track. If you're an indie fan, go give it a listen.
I'm curious to see like what the latest track you're gonna have on here is. I have one that's pretty late, so we'll get into it. It's a
I
little bit
guarantee
further on
mine's later.
the. um, for my number 22 pick, I have Minute Bowl by Babytron.
Ooh,
Gotta
okay.
show the Tron some love. I mean, this is the one that got me into him. So, uh, yeah, I mean, just it's probably my favorite track by him as well. So,
Good pick there. With my number 22, I went with Stuck in Traffic by Nicholas Craven and Boldy James. I'm sticking with the Michigan connection right there. Boldy James, one of the best out of the mitten, along with Babytron. This song is just so good. The rapping from Boldy is crazy. The production, the sample, perfection. If you're a rap fan and you haven't heard that one, you got to give it a listen.
definitely. For my number 21 pick here, I have The Highs and Lows by Chance the Rapper featuring Joey Badass. I didn't know where I wanted to put this one. So I feel comfortable with having it here. I feel like you could argue for it being a little bit higher, but it's good to make the list, for Chance's little comeback he's had. So
100%. I'm kind of surprised to see it on your list. I will say it's not on my list. Spoiler alert. Good song. And when we did see it at the Lyrical Lemonade event, like that kind of bumped it a little bit. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
had a
definitely
little
what.
comeback for it. Like I started listening to it again. But yeah, good track there. So with my number 22 pick here, I have CIA by Freddie Gibbs. I mean, the title alone, that's the most just classic Freddie. Crack, Instagram, and AIDS. I mean, that's just so classic Freddie Gibbs. One of the last songs on Soul Sold Separately, and one of my favorites. You know, I was having a tough time deciding which track I was going to go with off of Freddie's album. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, CIA, smooth production, pretty like subdued, but Freddie's bars always come through. And then you got the little part of him talking and him talking with other people and them saying government gave us crack, Instagram, and AIDS, and I love that. So yeah, had to have it on here.
Yeah, fire pick there. For my number 20 here, I had to get one off the I Know Nego project. The vinyl's coming in. It's gonna be on the wall with that next row. So stay tuned for that. Probably by the end of the year. But I have Punch Bowl by Nego, and then obviously Clips as well. So I could have a lot of picks here. I almost remember by Pop Smoke, but ultimately landed on this here.
Love that track. Great pick there. My next pick, I have Invincible by Omar Apollo with Daniel Caesar. Omar Apollo been on a tear this year. And I love Daniel Caesar. And this was one of the ones, like when I listened to this project, definitely stood out to me. Obviously, Omar's been just going crazy. He's been popping off on social media, but yeah, this is the one I go back to. So had to have it.
Definitely great pick there. With my number 19 one, I have by I don't know how to pronounce it, I guess by Nardo Wick. Just seeing it live twice, like this just had like the ultimate boost for it. It was just a phenomenal time each time in Miami, in New York. Had to show Nardo some love.
Fire. I don't know that track. So I'll have to give that one a listen. My next pick, I have 2012 by Saba. You know, this is a track that when we were initially talking about the album, this was our favorite track collectively. And it just kind of has held up for me. I almost went with Soldier. But yeah, 2012, just great storytelling out of Saba. That's something you know you're always able with him. His pen game is unmatched.
Hey, the green line, just how we get home, you know?
Facts. That line alone also just had a significant
yeah,
impact on our
iconic. Yeah, you just had to be there. Number 18, I have New Shoes by Brockhampton off the new project. I feel like I had to get one of those on there, and like we've talked about, I felt like that had the most Brockhampton feel to it. So
absolutely, it definitely did. We'll give a little plug here, but if you haven't seen our little reviews of The Family and TM, go check that out. That was 2 weeks ago. Next one for me, I have Feels Like by Lucky Day. Love Candy Drip from Lucky Day. Smooth R&B track, super catchy. One of my favorite R&B tracks of the year. I think we have, one or two above it, but one of my favorites of the year for sure.
Moving on here at 17, this is I feel like it's a really interesting position here. It's a Denzel Curry track. I feel like as a project, it's just as a collective, it's so much higher versus him having his number one track from the year for me landing at 17. Like I feel like that should be higher. If that makes sense. But I have X-Wing by Denzel Curry. So
okay, I was between X-Wing and the one I ended up going with, which we'll get to later. With my next pick here, I have 333/Adam by Kenny Mason. This is just such a good summary of Kenny Mason with like the slash. You have the two different parts to the track. You have the super rock kind of start with 333, and then you have the more melodic Adam half, and it's all great. Such a good track from Kenny. He was one of my artists that I was really looking forward to what they were going to do this year. One of them that I predicted was going to have a big year, and I think he did between the feature on Stick, my honorable mention, and his project. I think he definitely killed this year.
Definitely. This is another for my 16th pick is another case here. I feel like the 70 Shake album, that's a top 10 album along with Denzel Curry, but their number one track for me is landing a little bit further out of the top 10. But I have Invited by 70 Shake.
I just listened to that album again this week, and I was like, "Ooh, it's gonna be flirting with a spot on my 10." I think I'll have to see, but yeah, I think I kind of stick with that same theme with my pick, and that's off Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I think that's another album where it's a great body of work, but the individual songs themselves are good. But I think I like some other songs from other projects better. But my pick from that project is going to be Father Time with Sampha. Great track.
I
Such good storytelling from Kendrick. Sampha goes crazy on the chorus. Beautiful track.
Yeah, I feel like Mr. Morales just progressively just like stayed in the rotation, I guess. And it's kind of where I'm just liking new tracks every once in a while. Liking one a lot more and banging it a lot more. So I think it's definitely gonna have the longevity here. But moving on with my number 15 pick, I have Gasoline by The Weeknd.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah, I feel like it was worthy of a top 15 spot here, but um it's just like I feel like it was so early though, so it's kind of fallen out of the rotation a little bit is the only thing there. So I mean that was like one of our first episodes there. So
I think it was our first episode because I think in the news we talked about the sales for that and Gunna. So I think they both came out on January 7th or 14th, and then we started the week after. But um, I like that. I like the Weeknd inclusion. I didn't know if you'd have the Weeknd on your list or not, but I'm glad you do. With my next one, I have an artist who I listened to a lot this year. I love their project. Could not decide on a track. It took me a minute. It was Steve Lacy. I love his album. Bad Habit, such a good song. It's a hit. Then you have like Static, you have Helmet, you have Sunshine with Fouché. But ultimately, I went with Mercury. One of the singles, loved it when it was a single, loved it in the, realm of the album, and I still love it every time I go back to it.
definitely great pick there for mine. So I don't have any repeats like off an album besides this set of two here. So this is kind of like a 14A and 14B. So for the first one, I have Wait for You by Future. And then I couldn't decide between the two. So I also have Puffin' on Zooties as well.
Okay, those would be my two from that project as well. So I don't have either of them on my list, but I love both those tracks. So great picks there. With my next pick, this is another album that dropped very early in the year. And so it kind of had fallen out of rotation, but upon revisiting it, I knew it had to have a spot on my list. That's Fire in the Hole by Earl Sweatshirt. I love Sick as a project. And Fire in the Hole was like the immediate standout to me when I was listening to it. Earl is always going to come through with the crazy lyrics, and no exception, always have good production choice. Fire in the Hole, one of the best rap tracks of the year for sure.
Definitely. Big W from Earl earlier in the year.
Okay, so then I'll go with another one here since you did too. You went with your Nego pick earlier than I did. I'm going with it now. I'm going with Come On, Let's Go with Tyler, the Creator.
I
Love
knew
that
that.
track. I feel like, yeah, anybody that knows me could have known that was going to be coming here, but one of my favorite tracks of the year for sure.
Definitely. Big W there. For my number 12 track here, I have Pussy and Millions off the Drake project with Travis Scott and 21 Savage. So just banger track. Not much needs to be said about this.
Yeah, that's a recent track. I do not have one off of her loss. I couldn't pick one that, passed up some of the other songs, but it's definitely one of my favorites off that project. And I do love it as a track. With my next pick, this was another project where it was so hard to decide what track was going to represent the album. I feel like that kind of is going to give away a little bit of, some of our album of the year stuff, but whatever, we're getting to that point anyway, so we might as well talk about it. It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. I could not decide what track it was going to be. Is it Brambleton? Is it Neck and Wrist?
You can go about any song on that 12 track list. And I don't think there's an incorrect answer.
No, I don't either. It was very tough. And ultimately I settled on Just So You Remember.
I
Love
love
it.
the
Great
I
track.
love the sample there. It's like have you ever watched Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, it's like that's the song they play throughout it. That just always reminds me of it when it plays. But fire pick there. For my number 11, I heard this the other day and I was just like, damn, obviously it was just huge, just this enormous run initially back in January when it released. And I have P Power by Gunna.
I knew that's what you're gonna get at when you started like leaning it up with that, because I went back through my Spotify and I like started in January every album, every playlist, whatever, and I just kept going up. And that was one of the first ones I was like, ooh, like I kind of forgot about it.
I just had heard it the other day, and I was like, just fucking going with it. It's a great track. So
Respect. It is a great track. But with my next pick here, this is one of my top 5 most played songs of the year for my Spotify Wrapped. It's Bliss by Young Lean and FKA Twigs. I've never been like huge into Young Lean, but I've always like
mhm.
dabbled with some songs here and there. But when his album dropped, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a listen. And this is like either I think it's the first track, honestly. It's one of the first ones. And I was like, have I been sleeping on Young Lean? And FKA Twigs is always, she comes through with the crazy vocals, super dope production there as well. So Bliss, great
I think
track. I feel like it's definitely a slept on track.
I feel like we've all been sleeping on Young Lean to a certain extent there. For mine, kicking off my top 10 here, I have 2012 by Saba.
Okay.
That stayed my consistent pick throughout the year. So shout out Saba. You've talked about a little bit here, but I think we'll both be talking about a few good things here in a couple weeks.
Speak for yourself, man. We'll see.
We should
Um,
be. I mean,
no, I think we should be, but hey, you never know. We'll see. Kicking off the top 10, my number 10 here. You talked about what song is the most recent that's going to be on here. Have we got to your most recent track yet?
No.
Okay. This is my most recent track, and it's Kill Bill by SZA.
I knew it was gonna be a scissor track. I was like, when you said it was like it's gonna be hard to beat the most recent one. I was like, I almost put one on there, but I decided against it. So shout out SZA. We'll get into it a little bit. So on the project there.
Yeah, we can talk about it a little bit more. It was very hard to pick one track because I've only had, 2.5 listens of the album. But Kill Bill was the one, like, I listened to it driving home from Bloomington at 11:30 at night. I got back to Hudson at like midnight. Kill Bill came on. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good ass album. And Kill Bill, great track. And yeah, so it felt right that was my pick.
Definitely great pick there. For my number 9, I think you could guess and keep guessing songs, and I don't think you ever would have guessed this one. This one just has like such a personal connection to me, and it is "Beat the Odds" by Lil Tjay. Like in New
Okay.
York, they had fucking flyers everywhere, spray painted on the ground. Lil Tjay beat the odds, obviously with his return to after being shot, and then it's still just a banger track. Like it's just something that hasn't fallen out of rotation since it came out. So
That's a track that I barely listened to, I'll be honest. But like you said, you got that personal connection. I feel like I have songs that you wouldn't have and you probably haven't even heard. And same with you. So that's, what's great about this. We've talked before about like the duality of things between us. Like we have different takes on different things and different opinions and different tastes. And yeah, Lil Tjay, not my cup of tea, but I'd love to see him in your top 10. That's fire.
yeah, I just got to give the spotlight as well for him calling out the ops at the end of it's like towards the end of the track where he says he's not going to die like them. That's also just tough as fuck. So
Fire. With my next pick here, number 9, Survivor's Guilt by Joey Badass. This is a project. It was tough. It was between this and Show Me. Survivor's Guilt just has that like ode to Capital Steez as well as Joey's cousin. It's just a great track. Such a, emotional track. Just a look back at Capital Steez, the come up of Pro Era, Joey's relationships with these people that he's lost. Beautiful track.
definitely phenomenal track there. For my number 8 pick, I Pray for You off It's Almost Dry. I feel like I said, literally out of that whole album, any of the tracks could have been picked, but just such a great track. Like this is the one I find myself going back to the most. It's just beautiful track.
That crossed my mind. I had to go with Just So You Remember. Like when I was skimming through the tracks, like trying to decide what it was going to be, Just So You Remember was the one for me. But I Pray For You was close. That's a great track. Obviously having Malice on there, having the Labyrinth on there, fire.
Yeah, the Labyrinth was not expected, but it fit perfect. So
For sure. With my number 8 song, I have No Yeast by Currency, The Alchemist, and Boldy James. A second feature from Boldy James here. Always to come through with the lyricism. Alchemist, goated producer. One of the best beats of the year. Maybe the best beat of the year. I feel like, in our little awards of 2022, we'll have to have like best beat. There's a contender. That's all I'm going to say.
definitely, I'm excited to get into that as well. So For my number 7 track here, this is my most recent one. I have Raindrops by Metro Boomin with Travis Scott on there as well. Just such a phenomenal track. Like this track here just has me so excited for Utopia.
I felt the exact same way. Creepin' almost made my list, but it was one I felt like I needed a little bit more time with. SZA, I knew I had to have one based on how great the album was. Spoiler for our thoughts coming later, but yeah, SZA project was great, so I knew I had to have a song. Creepin' was very close to making my list. With my number 7 pick, I have PG Baby by Red Veil. Another strong contender for one of my favorite beats of the year. Just a great track. Red Veil goes crazy. His come up is so crazy. Got the remix with Denzel Curry, but I took the original one. The original one just hits a little bit different for me. It was the one I originally listened to. Great track.
Definitely. For my number 6 pick, I have Hotel Lobby by Quavo and Takeoff. It just hits so much harder now, and it still probably would have made this list without the unfortunate passing of a Takeoff. So
That's a great track. The colors performance of it hits a little bit different. Obviously, the passing of Takeoff definitely does make it a little bit more sentimental as well. But it's a great track. Definitely, if I had like a top 100, top 50 songs of the year, it'd 100% be on there. But it didn't make my top 25. With my number 6 pick here, I have my top streamed song of the year for my Spotify Wrapped, Super Eurus by LUCKI. LUCKI's flows are crazy. And I think it's as simple as that. Like, it's such an enjoyable track. I have a core memory of scrolling on TikTok, and it was one of those classic "What are you listening to?" videos. This guy went up to this girl. He said, "What are you listening to?" And she was like this most like stereotypical white girl, like mid to late 20s, like working it in like NYC. And she listened to Super Eurus by LUCKI, and that was the biggest like plot twist of the year.
that's fire.
It's so fire. And I would have been that girl. I would have been there. But what he was Super Eurus by LUCKI because it was on repeat all year. So I had to have some spot in my top 10. So close to being top 5 at number 6.
Kicking off my number 5 here, The Butcher coming with Johnny P's caddy, Benny the Butcher, J. Cole. I was super surprised to see it so late in yours, or so early, I guess. Phenomenal track. This easily could have been track of the year.
I'm not mad at that take. I knew it had to have a place on my list, but it kind of followed the rotation. So for that was the only reason it kind of dropped on mine. With my number 5, I have Less Than Zero by The Weeknd. You knew I had to have a Weeknd track in my top, definitely in my top 10. It was in my top 5 at number 5. Just a great track. You obviously have your Phantom Regret by Jim as like the outro, but this is like the real outro song on the project. Love it. Just remember listening to the album for the first time, and it just felt like such a ride. It's such a cohesive project, and then you have that beautiful ending. Sets it up for the third part of the trilogy of the After Hours Dawn FM world, and I'm ready for whatever the Weeknd does next. But Less Than Zero was a great track to get me by for the rest of the year.
Definitely. I feel like that's another one of those projects where there's not a wrong answer for your favorite track off there. So
100%. So short, so many good songs. So yeah, it was tough to pick. I almost went Gasoline. I almost went with, Out of Time, but Less Than Zero was the one.
for my number 4 here, I have your honorable mention with Stick by Dreamville. Just such a banger. Like, I feel like really what solidified this for me is, we had been banging it since the album had came out. But at New York Rolling Loud, it was like before the Pusha T set, the song right before, and I hadn't heard it at any of the Rolling Louds yet or anything. And this is the last day as well. They played Stick like over just like right before, how they just played it, get the DJ ready and everything. And it was just such a vibe. I feel like that's definitely solidified it as one of my favorite tracks of the year. So
I like that. I wanted to go to Lollapalooza to see J. Cole, and he performed it. And I think if I would have heard it there, it would have been definitely my top 25, probably significantly higher had I heard it live. But with J. Cole, I think that would have been crazy. But yeah, I love seeing it on your list. I didn't know if it was going to make your list. I figured something from that project was going to, though. So, like, as we moved on, I was like,
yeah,
which one's it going to be? Did not know, but glad to see it stick because love that track. So, as we get down here, there's a couple albums here that I have in my top 5 that, you haven't mentioned either. So I feel like we're going to get to them. And I know you're going to have a song from this project somewhere in your top 5, top 4 now, I guess.
top 3.
top three now, yeah. And that's Ramona Park Broke My Heart. I went with When Sparks Fly. Such a great track. The lyricism from Vince is 10 out of 10. The bar about the glove will keep you safe if you ever get loose. That's such a good line. Triple entendre basically from Vince. Pen
That
game, crazy.
I chose a different track off in Ramona Park, but that I feel like it's in contention with these two. Like if you pick either one out of those two. So if you choose something different, you're wrong. I mean, but
Fair enough.
number three here. This one's really crept up recently. Like I was just listening to last night even, and I was just like, God damn, Kodak did his thing on this, and it is Silent Hill by Kendrick Lamar.
Ooh, okay. I like that. That was definitely the one of the songs from Mr. Morale that I listened to the most. So I respect that pick.
There's a lot of good answers there. And I feel like I'm partial to this one as well because Kendrick Lamar performed this and brought out Kodak with him. So
yeah, that great personal story. I mean, that gives it definitely warrants it to be in your top three. Let's move on to my number three. This was a person whose album I was so excited for going into 2022. Album definitely delivered. It was another one where it was so hard to decide which track was going to represent the album. The album was Wasteland by Brent Faiyaz, and the song I ended up going with was All Mine. There's a lot of ones I think I could have gone with here, but All Mine instantly was the one that stood out to me, and it stayed in rotation all year, so had to have it. Favorite R&B track of the year.
I definitely blanked on Wasteland. So honorable mention to Ghetto Gatsby. Probably
Respect,
would
great
land
pick there.
probably would have landed somewhere in the top 25, but obviously here we are. Um, for my number two pick here, I have The Blues by Vince Staples. Just phenomenal track. I mean, like When Sparks Fly and The Blues, I feel like the lyricism in it, it's just on a different level. Just such deep, real topics and everything. So almost my track of the year, my most listened to track of the year though. So
yeah, before this, you kind of talked about like best versus what you listen to the most. And you might clown me for what pick I was almost gonna have off of Ramona Park. I think it's a great album. So I don't think there's many wrong answers. I
yeah,
was on Paper Cuts. Paper Cuts almost was my one off
yeah.
Ramona Park. You said there's only two options. I think I love Paper Cuts.
They just give off completely different vibes. I guess
100%.
I think those two are the best on there, but I mean your most listened to, like you said, could be a different story. So
yeah, no, I feel that. I think it is it's very different. Okay. So we're moving on here to the top two for me. And with my number two pick, I'm gonna say a song from an album that you haven't said yet. So it could be your number one. I guess we're gonna find out. But with my number two pick, I'm gonna go with Cody Blue 31 by JID. Forever Story is crazy. Cody Blue is such like a different side of JID. Normally, kind of when I think of JID, I think of the, just jittery, rapping fast bars. And this you get more like melodic singing. You still get some of the bars, some of the rapping, but it's just such a unique track from JID. Beautiful track. It feels right at number two, though.
I'll give a spoiler warning. JID didn't make this list, and he's not in my top 10 albums either. I think it's all personal preference. I don't listen to it too much. I don't find myself going back to it too much, although I respect the quality of the music that is on there. So I'll just it's an honorable mention on the list I already have made up, but it is not within my 10.
Okay, that's pretty crazy. What song would you have from JID as your like favorite?
Let me see what I have saved. I feel like there's a few good options here.
I was honestly kind of thinking that you could have like surround sound at number one. I was like, I would have been shocked if you said that. I've been like, okay, yeah, fine.
I'd say Can't Punk Me with Earth Gang.
That one's fire.
I don't know.
I think that's gonna be a poor take. Come
I'm not.
I'm
not saying. I'm not saying it's not a top 10 album, quality wise or music wise. It's just not going to make my list. I'm not ranking the top 10 albums of what I think is the best. I'm ranking with a mixture of what I also have. Or what
I respect that. I respect that, but we're gonna see, I guess. So now I'm very curious what your number one pick is.
Number one track. This is not a track of the year type song, but I have Survivor's Guilt by Joey Badass.
Okay.
Just such a deep topic, such a beautiful song. So
okay, I mean that's a valid pick. I think I had it a little bit lower, but still right around my top 10. So great track. Like we've talked about throughout. I mean, it's just great storytelling from Joey. Such a deep personal track. I feel like it's kind of similar to some of those Ramona Park tracks in the sense that he's like talking about real stuff, real personal, but just with great rapping. And it's just a great experience. That song is like an experience, I would say.
Definitely, like it's just such a beautiful track.
My number one. Do you have any thoughts here? What do you think it's going to be off of? See,
Go
with
to
you,
my
I thought it was going to be the Forever Story, but I was wrong. So I want to see if you have a guess for me.
Yeah, have you said a Denzel Curry track?
I have not. My number one track of the year, Walkin', Denzel Curry. It was, the first taste of Melt My Eyes that we got, but it just continued to stay in the rotation. And it's just such a good track. Like, I don't know. Denzel just continues to impress me the more and more music he puts out. And
In all these different aspects too. He's just such an impressive artist. I'm so ready for this next project where it's gonna get a little different vibe than rap. So I mean, obviously I think it's just gonna be a phenomenal project as he always releases. So
100%. And there were so many tracks I could have gone with off of Denzel. I almost went with Sanjuro. Could have gone with X Wing Like You.
I feel like
Walking was just the one. I love Walking so much.
I feel like that's why it landed just a little bit lower, is because there were just so many like quality tracks to choose from. I couldn't like place them above some of the others that are just like super standouts of other albums. So
I do feel that. I kind of think Walking was like the pick I went with because it has the most like replayability throughout different situations. Like you can throw Walking on like so many different times, whereas some of these other tracks, facts. Some of these other tracks that you might not want to listen to every day, but I think you could listen to Walking just all the time, and it kind of fits any vibe, any situation. Just such a great track. Love that project. Love that track. So
definitely W
that was our
project.
25. I mean, this was tough. It was so hard to get to 25. There's so many I didn't even talk about. I feel like I went with bigger artists or some from smaller artists I love just as much, but these stuck out to me more. And I don't know. It was impossible, but 25,
Yeah,
there we had it.
and like we talked about, it's very loose. Like this list is gonna change tomorrow probably. Like there's just no, it's not gonna stay concrete. It's such a hard thing to do with songs, especially. So albums is hard enough.
100%. And I mean, the beautiful things about music is like we're gonna have a chance to go back to 2022 albums and songs in 2 years, and everything's gonna shake up. There's probably stuff that came out this year that I haven't even heard yet. That in 2 years I could be like, that's the best song of the year. That's the best album of the year. Maybe not. Maybe not album. I feel like if it's an album, you're gonna hear about it, but songs, those can get pushed to the side, fairly easily. So yeah, excited to see in the future what we missed in 2022 that we come back to that we're like, I slept. I was sleeping on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just always that's the thing with music. You're always listening to finding something new or feeling something a little more. That's like two projects that were just super, very big standouts to me this year. Obviously, projects released in 2018 with Swimming and Astroworld. Like I felt like this year I was just finding a new track every week that I just love more than the last. So I mean, and I feel like this year specifically is like there is a large amount of potential for that just because how solid this year was with just all the releases we had. So
100%. Just such a good year. So many good tracks. So hard to narrow it down. But I got to say, we're going to have to drop a playlist. So stay tuned to our Instagram because this week we're going to be posting a playlist with our 25 each. So it'll be a little bit less than 50 because we had a couple repeats. What repeats do we have? We had 2012. We had
I think 2012
Survivor's Guilt.
Oh,
Survivor's
Johnny P's Caddy.
Johnny P's Caddy.
Stick doesn't really count. Partial.
So we had like
really
3.
On your list. Yeah.
Yeah, we had 3. So yeah, it'd definitely be a good playlist encompassing 2022 pretty well. So definitely go check that out when it drops. But yeah, I think with that being said, I think let's get on to the news a little bit. We got to start with the releases. Obviously, we already talked about SZA a little bit. Excited to get a little bit more into that. But let's talk about some of the other releases from this week. We had projects from A Boogie with the Hoodie, a Kodak Black EP, and a Lucky Day dropping a deluxe version of Candy Drip. Then we had singles from Polo G, Cochise, Lil Tecca, DC the Don, YG, Blast, and more. But obviously, it's that SZA project that is getting all the love right now. Did you have a chance to give this one a listen?
Yeah, I've given it a couple listens through, so I don't have my complete full thoughts on it yet. But I mean, very solid, of course. Final project from her, which is pretty surprising. But
We'll
she
see.
went out
We'll see about that.
she went out with a bang if she is going out. So
Yeah, I could see it being her last just because I feel like she's had some issues with putting stuff out and, whatever. But like you said, it was a great project to go out on. If this is going to be her last one, she really did her thing. She covered so many different styles on this project. I mean, you have like basically rap to some like rock type vibes, the R&B, she's going to always deliver with. Features went crazy. The Phoebe Bridgers feature, that was fire. Those two on a track was something I never really would have expected, but it worked pretty well. Just all in all, a great project that I'll say now you will be seeing in my top 10. I need a little bit more time with it to decide where it's going to be, but I think it's set that it'll be in my top 10 somewhere.
we'll see. It's floating around in there. It's in the potential list. I feel like my list is pretty set though. I wouldn't be surprised if it made it, but then again,
Mine was set, and then this shook it up. Like I was saying, I was listening to it on the way back from Bloomington, and when we got to Kill Bill, that was basically the reason it made my list. Kill Bill made my songs of the year list because at that moment I knew like this just shook up my album of the year list. Like we were 2 songs in, and I knew okay, this could be a special album, and so that was the reason Kill Bill basically made mine. We'll see where it ends up, but it's a great project. It's been long awaited. I'm sure many fans are happy. Can't wait to see the numbers it's going to do. Obviously, there's some projections out there and whatever, but it's going to be a huge first week. We know that.
Yeah. I'm what, like 300K I'm seeing it. I feel like the last one I saw was around 300,000 for her.
Yeah, I think
Which,
like 275 to 300
yeah,
yesterday is what they were talking about. So that's crazy first
huge
week.
number. Yeah, huge numbers. I also want to give a shout out to A Boogie. Solid project there. I feel like he always, just manages to put together a solid project with some bangers here and there. Um, that's actually one person I'm going to see with some of my friends. Hey Boogie in Chicago. So that's like February, I think.
Okay, go crazy. I got to give my special shout out to another track that I actually did not include here in the releases, but it's Forward by Subtract. I think it's Subtract. It's SBTRKT. I've always seen their name, but I've never said it out loud. I'm assuming it's Subtract. But they dropped Forward, which is the track that was previewed at the end of the Jimmy Cooks video and album announcement for Her Loss. It does not have 21 Savage on it, does not have Drake on it, but it's such a great track. I almost threw it into my top 25 of the year. That was one that I was like, okay, I gotta hold back on that. I can only have one that dropped 72 hours ago in my top 25. It felt wrong to have 2 spots taken out by songs that just dropped. Says that I knew I had to have, but yeah, this is a great track. If you saw that album announcement, that video from Drake in 21, and you were like, I need that track, here it is. Go enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me it's a banger. Top 25. That's surprising.
Close. It was close. Top 50.
Yeah, top 50 even.
I'd stand by that.
I respect it.
I was talking about one album getting all the love, SZA, of course. There's another album that's got a lot of attention. I won't say love. It's Gucci Mane. Gucci Mane just dropped So Icy Boys, the finale. And this is one of the most unorthodox, crazy albums I have seen in my entire life. If you haven't seen this project yet, it dropped and it is 80 songs long. 80, not 18, 80. And that totals 3 hours and 51 minutes of music. This is the craziest album I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah. It is interesting for sure. I think I'll leave it at that. I don't even know how to approach this. How do we digest it?
I don't even believe there's like music on the whole thing. I believe like you just went to like one of these random parts.
You're on track 33. Yeah, you're on track 33 and there's nothing.
Yeah. Like 80 songs is crazy. I feel like Gucci Mane, he has so many projects, so many mixtapes, so 80 songs. I mean, I'm sure he has a whole bunch in the stash, I'm sure. So I guess 80 to him is nothing, but 80 for somebody to listen to is crazy. I saw one person on Twitter who like showed their Apple Music like listening stats that they actually did listen to the whole project,
Yeah,
and they said they were probably one of the first people to do it. And I agree because I don't know, in the first 12 hours who had 4 hours sit down and listen to that project.
for sure. Um, just like randomly crossed my mind. I think it's because we're talking about a 2000s rapper with a huge project. I fumbled on not having a song from the Games project. No Man
Mm.
Falls with Pusha T and 2 Chainz is phenomenal track that would have made my top 25 for sure. So, adding that into the notes here.
That's your honorable mention.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
stake you at that.
unfortunate. That is very
Respect.
unfortunate because that would have, damn. That just crossed my mind. I was thinking like just long projects and yeah.
Yeah, there's like that's what I'm saying. Like these lists could change, so whatever. All right. Another drop here. Kanye dropped a song on the Alex Jones show that he posted on Instagram. And I know we're on the cancel Kanye train, but
You're on the cancel Kanye train.
I meant we as like society, more specifically than we, the two of us.
You.
But this track was pretty fire. The beat was so good. The rapping I didn't like love. It wasn't a 10, but the production. Kanye is a wizard on the production, one of the goats, and this was no exception. This was crazy.
I feel
Someday
like
we'll all
my
be free. Donny Hathaway sample on that. Do you have a memory of where that song is from?
I do not.
This will blow your mind when I tell you. Someday we'll all be free by Donny Hathaway, featured in The Walking Dead when Sasha dies in like the coffin and she's listening to music in the headphones. That's the song she's listening to that
Okay.
Kanye samples. So pretty fire little tie-in right there.
Yeah. I feel like the biggest question here is, are we ready to forgive Kanye?
We are not. We are definitely not. Kanye made Graduation. That's the only thing I'll say.
Yeah. No, just messing around there, of course. Yeah, I like the track though. Phenomenal track, of course. So I think Kanye is never gonna lack in that department of music making. So
Yeah, just some other departments. A project that dropped last week that we talked about, Metro Boomin. We didn't give a total first week sales projection on that, but we have one now to go back into. Metro Boomin sells 182,000 first week. This is the 5th highest debut for a hip hop album in 2022. This is crazy. Shout out to
huge
Metro.
W. Yeah.
Huge W for Metro. Obviously, he
Metro.
has so many people featured on the project, but still just a crazy number from Metro.
Definitely that insane, really. I feel like over 150,000, it's just pretty significant nowadays.
100%. Yeah. The way everything changes, like people used to do way, way higher, but 150 is massive. Another album we got to talk about on the way. This might shake up things for 2022. It might come in 2023. We're going to find out, I guess. But ASAP Rocky, during Thursday Night Football, he said, "My album is done. Don't be dumb. Let's go." He said that before his Amazon Music live stream. Then he performed a couple new songs. I'm ready. I need that. The tracks he performed sounded really good. Excited for Rocky. Been so long. One of my favorites, definitely like when I was in high school. So anytime we get new Rocky, I'm happy. But I feel like it's been since I was in high school since we got new Rocky.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm super excited for this. I'm hoping it's a quarter one of 2023 so I can make my 2023 list. So that's my only hope. But obviously,
Respect.
I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I'll take it whenever we get it. But people are, speculating is Don't Be Dumb the name of the project. And I have to say, if that's the name, I think that's a bad name. I don't like Don't Be Dumb. The album I have to deliver, I have to, fit. I'll have to hear the music, but Don't Be Dumb as a name. Yeah, I'm not all in on that one yet.
I think it's kind of weird hearing the project's name without, the sound that fits it. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see if that is the name, what if the sound fits it. So
we'll see. Obviously, he had like the Live Long ASAP, At Long Last ASAP, that kind of style. Then he got into testing. So, you didn't
testing
know
fits
how
that
this
vibe
was.
perfect.
Testing absolutely fits the vibe. So I didn't know, what direction he was going to go with and like the title and the style on this one. We'll see. Definitely ready for the music whenever we get it though. The last news here, we were talking about Gucci Mane just throwing out songs, 80 songs like it's nothing. He probably has a lot in the stash. So many songs were leaked this week. This is one of the biggest leaks I've seen ever, really. 172 Young Nudy tracks were leaked in one session, which is absurd. 172 songs just sitting like on a USB, just gone. Just now they're out there. Unbelievable. There were also other artists featured in that same leak. 42 Sa Baby tracks. There was probably about 20 from Young Thug and 20 from Gunna. Also tracks from Playboy Cardi, ASAP Rocky, 21 Savage, Future, and even more. I mean, it was just huge leak. How would you feel if you're a rapper, 172 of your tracks just out for the public now?
I just want to throw this out there. I had a very busy Tuesday night and Wednesday morning getting all those tracks out for you guys.
You can't joke like that. Young Nudy is gonna pull up.
Yeah.
Young Nudy already like said, "On my mama, I'm coming up on the studio of whoever did that." So yeah, Young Nudy, he's kidding.
Yeah,
he's just a boy.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. It's a lot of your work gone. A lot of potential stuff you gotta add on projects that would make you millions of dollars. So obviously, an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I don't even honestly get how leaks work. Like, I don't get how people just get leaked like that. Like, Juice WRLD, his everything's out there.
Find out.
Playboy Cardi. Yeah, I guess I gotta come to the come cool with you. Come to the
Come
lab,
to the trenches.
Yeah. I don't get it. It's crazy though.
Yeah, it is a crazy situation, but I'm not surprised with like just the way the internet is, or like how much people can actually get into.
So crazy. They weren't having this problem 15 20 years ago, so kind of just sign of the times with music today and technology, but crazy. And you have to hope that there eventually is something that they can do to slow it down, or hopefully even stop it. But yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I feel like that's something that you kind of just got to deal with.
I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know, in the comments on YouTube. I'll put the little pull up on Spotify if you're listening on there. Let us know what your favorite song of 2022 is. We'll ask you guys on Instagram as well. And then, we'll talk about some of your answers next week. So excited to see what you guys think, because there's so many songs you could really go with this year that I think are contenders. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, next time you guys see me, this is my last episode as a 20-year-old, so I'll be a different man next week. So.
Yes, sir. No more leaking music.
Yeah, I'm leaving that in my past.
Yes, sir. All right. We'll see you guys.